Ethiopia is endowed with extensive suitable lands, rivers and conducive climate for sugarcane growth. Various pre-feasibility and feasibility studies have ascertained that there are many unused potential sites for sugarcane plantation in various parts of the country.
Well, Ethiopia's plan with regard to sugar development is based on its potentials, its comparative advantage for sugar development, because it has one of the best climate and one of the best soils fit for sugar development. This has been proved in the development of the factories in Wenji, in Fincha, in Metara, which had been producing sugar for the last 4 or 5 decades.
Sugar production in Ethiopia dates back half a century ago, when Wenji Sugar Factory commenced operation in 1954-55 with annual production capacity of 15,843 tons of white sugar. As the demand for sugar rose, a Dutch company began to grow sugarcane on 5,000 hectares of land in the upper Awash Basin, some 100 kilometers southeast of Addis Ababa. Demeke is one of the then employees of the factory. He lives in one of the residential units customarily known as vicinity of pensioners. Demeke, who served the factory for 33 solid years, recalled the early stage of the factory.
In the beginning, sugar was no more known by Ethiopians. Thus, the company used to advertise sugar far and wide by boiling tea and serving the pedestrians and passersby, and even offering sugar for free. Not long after people got accustomed to sugar, advertisement was no more needed. That promotional endeavor could easily meet its target, that sugar sooner and later got into Ethiopian day-to-day market successfully.
Seeing the lucrative business, the Metahara Sugar Factory joined the industry in 1969 with a processing capacity of 115,000 tons of sugar a year. The sugar factory, named after its host town Metahara, was followed by Fincha Sugar Factory in East Wallagga in 1998 with a production capacity of 85,000 tons of sugar a year. In Ethiopia, it's estimated that over 5 million hectares of fertile and cozy land is available for cane plantation. With its conducive climate, abundant water and plentiful human resources, Ethiopia can presumably produce 5 million tons of sugar per annum. Tariku Gabeyo, who is serving the Wenji Showa Sugar Factory at the capacity of farming project head, claims that Wenji Sugar Factory was the first to introduce irrigation for sugarcane plantation.
It was at Wenji for the first time that sugarcane development through irrigation was introduced. Surprisingly, the factory had managed to harvest high yield during the first pilot project. The fertility of the land was so high. We learned that Ethiopia has huge potential for cane plantation. The successful outcome enabled us to be one of the leading producers in the globe.
Currently, no matter how supply and demand of sugar is going on, unbridgeable gap is already in a firm ground. On the contrary, it was as a beginning that cumbersome promotional deeds had been undertaken to bring the public at large be cognizant of sugar and familiar with its consumption value. At present, some 30,000 acres of land is covered by cane plantation, which is estimated to yield over 350,000 tons of sugar. Until quite recently, this amount of production has been entirely satisfying local demand, and part of it has been exported to earn foreign currencies.
ፊንጫ ወደ መስመር በሚገባበት ጊዜ በትክክል እኔ እንደማስታውሰው
At present, Fincha Sugar Factory is producing in large scale and at full capacity. This is because, unlike the past, there is high demand for sugar. That was why some 13 to 14 years ago, sugar factories could not entirely go to full production capacity.
Sugar passes through a number of production steps before it reaches customers and proves to be tasty before everyone's tongue, among which it involves hiring of hundreds of laborers who work at the difficult weather condition.
It's one's duty to work and earn money for living. Also, working on cane plantation is so tiresome and dangerous by its nature. However, we do it because our white sweet is producing sweet white sugar.
Despite the country's huge potential and favorable climatic conditions for sugarcane development, the nation has not been producing at the desired level.
Our government has decided to make sugar development as one of the pillars of our industrial development and export development. In view of this, we are planning to have 10 new factories, sugar factories in the 5 years plan, and we already had 3 new factories which were being built, which were under construction already. They will be completed this year and next year. So all in all, we will have around 13 new sugar factories in the coming 5 years. 10 to be built anew, and the 3 ones who would be completed in the coming years. So, and that's part of the overall growth and transformation plan of the country.
These days, ethanol, another most important product of sugar factories, has attracted the concern of the government. This because the product is being blended with benzene, reducing the country's foreign currency payments for oil.
ስኳር ብቻ አይደለም ያመርተው በጣም ብዙ ምርት ያመርታል ለምሳሌ መታራ አሁን
By making the Matahara sugar factory operate with full capacity, we are expecting to produce over 10 million liters of ethanol every year. Look, the newly set up sugar industries. If they can yield double of Mataharas, we can minimize our benzene's import cost over time.
ተንዳው ሙሉ ለሙሉ ሲጠናቀቅ 120 ሜጋዋት ማመንጨት ይችላል።
Upon completion, the expansion wing of Tandao sugar plant can generate 120 megawatt of electrical energy alongside sugar production.
The ever-increasing population, coupled with the double-digit economic growth, has resulted in rising demand for sugar. During the early times of the sugar factories, the nation was exporting sugar to neighboring countries. Since a decade, however, the nation could hardly meet its local demand even with additional imported sugar. This has been attributable to the speed up of urbanization, making sugar consumption inevitable in each house and societal livelihood. Thus, the unprecedented growth for demand of sugar pinpoints the need to conduct pre-feasibility and feasibility studies on sugar industry of Ethiopia.
5-year development plan in sugar sector. We have to look for the best technologies, the best experiences elsewhere in the world. And Brazil and India are the most outstanding ones with regard to this, and of course Australia and South Africa also. So we decided to benchmark their experiences as a basis for our development. So we had a visit to Brazil last year with the purpose of building up a partnership with the Brazilian sugar sector, be it government and private institutions, where we could share their experience, where they could help us in building our capacity in terms of training, expertise for agriculture, for sugarcane development, for factory processing, for sugarcane research. So we had sent a delegation there, which I was in charge of, and we had a discussion with government officials at all levels, with research institute, Embrapa, which is the most famous research institute in Brazil, world famous institution, which would hopefully help us in training our researchers and sending the researchers here to coach us on the job. And also we visited private sugar companies which have a very large farm, up to 1,000 hectares or more, and we were able to have discussions with different training and research institutes and companies, and the result was we had learned that Brazil has developed its sugar development in two ways. One, in producing sugar itself. Second, in producing ethanol at high standard and quality.
These days, the Ethiopian government is undertaking massive expansion programs by upgrading the already functioning sugar factories alongside establishing new ones nationwide. In order to curb the ever-growing demand, the government annually imports 150,000 tons of sugar at a cost of over $60 million. Even this structural measure could not satisfactorily meet the demand of dwellers of existing new cities and towns of the country.
ያለፉት 8 ወይም 9 ዓመታት ግን እጅግ በጣም ከፍተኛ ለውጥ ነው በስኳር ፍላጎት ላይ የመጣው።
Ethiopia's total sugar demand has been estimated some 450,000 tons annually. As cafes, tea rooms, and even some sugar-demanding factories such as beverage and biscuit processing plants increases, the demand for sugar rises more than ever before. Therefore, in order to meet such a huge demand, we should work hard on the field with special emphasis.
The sugar industry in Ethiopia strives to produce sugar of high standard quality to satisfy both local and foreign customers. To that end, the government has targeted to grow sugar cane and other sugar-yielding plants by conducting thorough research, study, and plan, and is implementing various sugar development programs, thus conducting scientific, industrial, and agricultural researches and surveys to enhance the programs has got underway, as developing agricultural lands across the country is well in progress. Currently, a high project is underway which could practically take over the Wenji factory. For instance, besides the existing 7,000 acres of land, some 15,000 new acres of land is getting ready for sugarcane cultivation. This is one of the modern irrigation systems which Wenji Shua factory uses to undertake overhead irrigation. Each sprinkler has an irrigating capacity of 0.4 hectares per second. Not only has this so-called center pilot irrigation mechanism revolve through its wells for 490-meter radius to irrigate 45 hectares of land. Wenji Shua factory obtains 22% of its sugarcane production from Outgrower Farmers Association. These outgrower farmers number 8,000, support over 50,000 families. Currently, Matara Sugar Factory makes use of 11 commercial and semi-commercial cane varieties. The cane varieties have been selected on the basis of compatibility to the soil and their ability to prevent diseases. Most of the plains in Matahara are gentle and suitable for gravity irrigation. There are 1,200 kilometer-long irrigational canals on the cane fields. Water pumped from the Awash River is stored in 23 reservoirs whose holding capacity ranges from 6,500 to 93,000 million liters. The average land productivity is about 165 tons of cane per hectare, and over 1 million tons of cane is supplied to the factory in one season. Including the Tandao, the government is committed to establish 10 big new of huge sugar factories, each with crushing capacity of 12,000 tons per day. The new plants would be technologically advanced. Ethiopian professionals who drew experience from Brazil and India professionals would in turn train other Ethiopians. Let alone Brazil, Mauritius can be a good example as far as sugar production is concerned. The country produces over 6 million quintals of sugar from its 70,000 hectares of land. Also, the small island country Cuba, which has a topography equivalent to 1/4 of us, stood fourth among the world sugar-producing countries. When all the new projects go operational, the annual sugar production of the country would reach 2.7 million quintals, as their ethanol production capacity goes up to 21 million liters. The Tandao Sugar Factory, which is undertaking expansion project in Afar Regional State, would cultivate cane over 50,000 hectares of land. Tandao Sugar Factory can crush over 26,000 tons of cane per day at maximum. At present, more than $250 million is needed in order to establish one sugar factory. That's without adding the construction and other expenses. Alongside sugar production, as byproducts, the factories produce molasses, from which ethanol is obtained, and other products including yeast and organic fertilizer. By fully exploiting all the resources, Ethiopia envisaged to becoming one of the 10 top sugar-producing countries the world over.